I think this part of the movie is pretty interesting where Shoko wakes up feeling different. She feels more loving. She feels more confident about herself. She wears her hair differently. And as she's talking with Shoya, she starts to talk to him in her own voice. She tries to communicate with him in a different kind of way. As you remember from the choir scene in this movie, her voice is not that it's bad, it's just very difficult to understand. And Shoya encourages her to continue using sign language instead. And this kind of hurts Shoko's confidence, maybe due to the fact that she's trying to impress Shoya. But the message I'm trying to convey here is when you're talking to somebody you have feelings for, instead of trying to be somebody you're not, to express the best part about yourself. Express the best part about you, whatever that may be, and not to change yourself too much to the point where you're only trying to change to impress the one you're interested in. It's good to change, but that change has to be authentic. It can't be forced in this kind of way, if that makes sense. So Shoko gives Shoya a gift, and then she confesses her feelings to him. She says, when she's saying this, she's very embarrassed. She's very nervous about saying this. It's not an easy thing to say. I actually had an experience once. One girl from middle school said it to me and I didn't know what to say. Kind of feel like Shoya in this scene right here where I'm just not sure what to respond with. But the only difference here is that Shoya doesn't even understand what she's trying to say, and he completely ignores her because he thought she was saying something completely different, which is really, really funny. But, you know, what's something we can take from this? That Shoya, if he did understand what she was trying to say, he would feel the same way. Therefore, protect your heart, sure, but just, if you're gonna confess your feelings, you know, you never know. You never know how the other person feels. It's better to shoot your shot. They say you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I always feel like it's better to take your shot than to live with the regret of not knowing what the outcome would have been.
Where are you going?
Another point I want to bring up is that Shoya, throughout this movie, he's always looking for signs, whether or not Shoko feels the same way about him that he feels about her. I feel like it's good to look for signs. It's just the problem with this is that it can get to our head to the point where it becomes a distraction. And instead of living in the truth, we create this character, we create this fantasy of what is not actually real. And it's really easy to live in fantasy land rather than to find out the truth for ourselves. And there's this one scene in this movie where Shoko's sister says to Shoya, if you really want to know how somebody feels about you, all you really have to do is ask. As human beings, we overcomplicate this. I think that's so true. And you can finally find whether or not you're meant to be with whatever person you're always fantasizing about, or if it's best to move on and try to find somebody else. Shoya begins to open his heart around his friends and his classmates, and they spend some great time bonding with each other at this amusement park. He even starts to bond with Nyoka, the really, really annoying, unlikable character, but she finds a way to screw it up. I say Nyoka is an unlikable character, but really, like, she also has some psychology surrounding her behavior. So all she wants is for things to go back to the way things used to be. And how can you really blame her for that? She had so much fun picking on Shoko in elementary school, and she had fun bonding with Shoya during that time, and she wishes everything would go back to the way things were. Shoya obviously wants something a little different, and he wants a new future for himself. He doesn't want to be reminded of his past, but Nyoka continues to bring his past back up to him, and obviously you can see how this creates conflict between the two characters.
You know, if Shoko hadn't shown up, we would all still be friends and be happy. Tell me the truth. Do you hate me?
Probably.
This is as bad as it gets with Nyoka. This scene right here where she invites Shoko to spend some time on a Ferris wheel together. You would think like, oh, they're just doing it to bond with each other, but Nyoka uses this as an opportunity to completely go off on Shoko and bring up all her hardcore feelings about her as a person, that she absolutely hates her. She wants nothing to do with her. What's very, very sad is that all Shoko can respond with is, I'm sorry. Just like in elementary school, all she could respond with is "I'm sorry." And it's devastating. It's devastating not only for her, but for her sister, for Shoya, for her family. And like I said, hatred spreads. Hatred doesn't just affect us, but it affects the people around us. It affects everyone. And it points Shoko to the brink of suicide. She even physically assaults her, dude. She physically puts her hands on her, dude. And her problem is that she's only thinking about herself in this situation. She's not trying to see it from Shoko's perspective. She's not trying to understand how difficult things are with her health condition. She just expects her to be born quote unquote normal like everyone else. Do I even have to explain how unfair that is? Get this, so Naoka says in this meeting, she says, "I hate you, and I know that you probably hate me too, right?" But Shoko responds with, "No, I don't hate you." Obviously, right? Why would she, right? And then Shoko responds with, "I hate myself." She responds with, "I hate myself." And for whatever reason, for God knows why, Naoka thinks it's justified to slap Shoko in the face due to this response. I have no idea why she jumps to that conclusion, but this is the kind of hatred I'm talking about that doesn't do anyone any favors whatsoever. So this one character named Miki, this girl, she got the biggest mouth, bro. She exposes Shoya to the entire class that he used to pick on Shoko. You know, I don't know if anybody's ever met somebody like this, but she completely embarrasses Shoya. Like I said, he obviously feels bad about what he's done in the past, and all he wants is a new, fresh start to his life, where he's not reminded of his wrongdoing and he's not reminded of how much of a jerk he once was. She just completely ruins that optimistic dream of his in like 5 minutes. It's really devastating for this character. Shoko's sister has a dream about her sister killing herself. Of course, this is very alarming to her. She doesn't think anything of it, but nobody wants to ignore stuff like this.